Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into one of humanity's most enduring mysteries, the pyramids of Egypt. These monumental structures, standing tall for thousands of years, continue to whisper secrets of an age long gone. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy the kind of content that merges myth and mystery. And hey, let us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. It's time now to dim the lights, settle into your pillow, and let's cover what we have for tonight. Together, imagine the warm air of the Egyptian desert, dry, endless, and golden. The sun has ruled the sky all day, and now as it begins to sink, its light spills across the dunes in liquid amber. This was the same landscape seen by the ancient Egyptians thousands of years ago. Yet, where we see only sand and rock, they saw a sacred canvas, a place touched by the divine. For them, every sunrise was the rebirth of the sun god Ra, and every sunset his journey into the underworld. Their world wasn't merely physical, it was a vast, living spiritual system, and it was from this cosmic understanding that the idea of the pyramid was born. Around 3100 BCE, the first kings of a united Egypt rose to power. They brought together the upper and lower regions of the Nile into one kingdom, an empire built along the life-giving river that cut through the desert like a green artery. The Nile was more than a river, it was life itself. It gave food, water, and fertile soil, and its yearly floods marked the rhythm of Egyptian existence. The people's dependence on the Nile made them deeply aware of cycles, life, death, and rebirth, and this cyclical understanding became the foundation of their religion. Pharaohs, the rulers of Egypt, were not seen as mortal men. They were the living embodiment of divine order, Ma'at. In life, they were the earthly form of Horus, the falcon god of kingship and the sky. In death, they became Osiris, lord of the afterlife. This dual identity meant that death wasn't an end for the pharaoh. It was a transformation, a continuation of his divine role in another realm. And so, their tombs were not simply graves. They were carefully engineered spiritual launchpads, mechanisms of rebirth designed to ensure the king's eternal life among the stars. The earliest kings were buried in rectangular mud brick structures called mastabas. These were flat-roofed, low buildings with underground chambers, practical but unremarkable. However, as the Egyptian civilization flourished, so too did its ambitions. The idea of commemorating a pharaoh's divinity on earth demanded something grander, more symbolic, and more permanent. The desert, which had always represented eternity, became the stage upon which these colossal tributes to divine kingship would rise. By the time of the Third Dynasty, around 2700 BCE, Egypt was entering an age of immense prosperity. Trade was booming, craftsmen were mastering new skills, scribes were recording knowledge on papyrus scrolls, and the concept of the pyramid was about to emerge for the first time. But before that innovation took form, one man would need to think differently, to see not what was, but what could be. That man was Imhotep, the architect, priest, and polymath who served under Pharaoh Djoser. Imhotep is one of the first individuals in recorded history whose name is remembered not for his royal blood, but for his genius. To him, the Pharaoh's tomb was more than a place of rest. It was a divine mechanism, an expression of the Pharaoh's eternal power, and an offering to the gods. Imhotep envisioned something that had never been attempted before, a monument built entirely of stone. Stone in ancient Egypt was associated with the eternal. Unlike mud brick, which crumbled and decayed, stone endured. Building with it was a declaration, a statement of permanence. And so, at Saqqara, Imhotep designed the step pyramid, stacking 6 mastabas one atop another, forming a massive staircase reaching toward the heavens. It wasn't just a burial site, it was a symbolic ladder to the sky, a representation of ascension, of the Pharaoh's journey from the world of the living to the world of the gods. This single architectural leap, from mud brick to limestone, from the flat mastaba to the vertical pyramid, changed everything. It transformed Egypt's landscape and forever altered humanity's vision of what civilization could achieve. The step pyramid was both an engineering triumph and a theological statement. Every block was carefully cut, hauled, and placed by human hands, not by slaves, as popular myth would later claim, but by skilled workers, artisans, and laborers who saw their work as sacred duty. For them, building a pyramid was an act of devotion, a way to serve the divine order of Ma'at. Standing in the desert, the step pyramid must have been unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It shimmered under the sun, its white limestone surface reflecting light so brightly that it could be seen for miles. It dominated the horizon, a silent monument to Djoser's reign and to Egypt's newfound mastery over nature and time. And it sparked something profound, a cultural movement that would span centuries, the age of the pyramid builders. But why did Egypt, out of all ancient civilizations, create such enormous tombs? The answer lies in their understanding of existence. The Egyptians didn't see death as final. They believed in an afterlife that mirrored life on earth, filled with fields, rivers, music, and companionship. But to reach it, the soul had to pass a series of trials, guided by divine order. The pyramid served as both a protective shell for the king's body and a metaphysical engine to power his journey beyond. In building pyramids, Egyptians also built identity. These structures weren't just personal tombs, they were national symbols of divine unity. Each pyramid reminded the people that their pharaoh was eternal, that Egypt was stable, and that life flowed in a perfect, unbroken cycle, just like the Nile itself. The pyramid was the ultimate symbol of cosmic order rising from chaos, the earth ascending toward the heavens. So, as the sun set over ancient Egypt and the desert cooled under the violet twilight, the step pyramid of Djoser cast its long shadow over the sand. It was not merely stone upon stone, it was the crystallization of an idea that man could touch eternity, that life and death were part of the same divine rhythm, and that even as the sands of time shifted endlessly across the land, the memory of a pharaoh could remain, unmoving, unbroken, immortal. To understand why the pyramids exist, we must first understand who they were built for: the pharaohs, the god kings of Egypt. The story of the pyramid is not just one of stone and labor, it is the story of faith, power, and a civilization that saw the divine reflected in the face of its ruler. When we say pharaoh, we're speaking about more than a king. In the Egyptian worldview, the pharaoh was a living god, not merely chosen by the gods, but one of them in human form. He was believed to embody the god Horus while alive, and upon death, transform into Osiris, the ruler of the underworld. This divine lineage made the pharaoh the intermediary between the heavens and the earth, the single thread tying humanity to the eternal. Egyptian society was built entirely around this belief. Every law, ritual, and structure was designed to maintain Ma'at, the balance and harmony of the cosmos. The pharaoh was not just the head of government, he was the living anchor of Ma'at itself. If the Nile flooded properly, if the harvests were abundant, if the borders were secure, all of it was seen as a reflection of the pharaoh's spiritual power. His success was Egypt's success, his death a cosmic event, and therefore his journey into the afterlife was not a private matter, it was the destiny of the entire kingdom. Imagine standing in the bustling heart of ancient Memphis, one of Egypt's early capitals. The air is warm, filled with the scent of incense and the sound of chanting priests. Statues of falcons and jackals line the temple courts. The people bow their heads as the pharaoh passes, not as a ruler to be respected, but as a deity to be revered. His word is law, his breath divine. He is the mediator between man and God, the one who speaks with the heavens and brings the blessings of Ra, the sun god, to his people. But being a god on earth came with a price. The pharaoh's life was one of ceremony and responsibility. Every festival, every ritual had cosmic importance. The pharaoh's presence in the temples, his offerings, his prayers, all were acts that maintained the rhythm of creation itself. The Egyptians believed the universe was born from chaos, and that chaos was always lurking, waiting to return. Only through the pharaoh's divine order could balance, Ma'at, be preserved. This is the key to understanding the obsession with immortality. Death, to the Egyptians, was not the end of the pharaoh's role, it was its continuation. When the pharaoh died, his soul, or Ka, would separate from the body, needing a safe passage to the next world. But for that journey to succeed, his body had to be preserved, his name remembered, and his tomb perfectly aligned with the forces of the cosmos. And so, the pyramid was born as both a machine and a symbol. It was the vessel through which the pharaoh's spirit could ascend to the afterlife. The pyramid's design, vast, ordered, symmetrical, was a physical expression of Ma'at. Every angle, every chamber, every hieroglyph carved within was meant to echo the cosmic harmony the pharaoh was sworn to uphold. Each pharaoh, upon taking the throne, immediately began planning his eternal resting place. It was not vanity, it was destiny. The pyramid was the physical manifestation of divine kingship. Its construction began from the moment the pharaoh was crowned, often taking decades to complete. The immense labor and resources dedicated to these projects were acts of devotion, not oppression. Entire communities sprang up around pyramid sites, with workers, artisans, priests, and administrators, all united by the sacred goal of ensuring their king's immortality. To the Egyptians, this unity was an act of faith. Every block lifted, every offering made, was a gesture toward the eternal. In serving the pharaoh, they were serving the gods themselves. The workers believed their labor would secure them a place in the afterlife, a form of divine reciprocity. This collective faith bound Egypt together, generation after generation, creating a civilization that endured for more than 3,000 years. the grandeur of Egypt's rulers reflected this divine perception. Consider Pharaoh Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a monument so vast that for over 3,800 years, no human-made structure would surpass its height. Khufu was seen not just as a leader of men, but as the chosen one of Ra, destined to ascend to the heavens. His pyramid was his stairway to the stars, specifically the circumpolar stars that never set, symbolizing eternal life. The pyramid's sloping sides were thought to catch the sun's rays, guiding the pharaoh upward into eternity. The rituals surrounding the pharaoh's death were equally magnificent. Upon his passing, priests performed the opening of the mouth ceremony to reawaken his senses for the afterlife. The body was mummified with extraordinary precision, organs removed, wrapped, and placed in sacred jars, the corpse embalmed with oils and resins, the features restored with makeup and gold. Mummification wasn't just preservation, it was transformation. The pharaoh's body became divine, immortal, ready to host the eternal spirit. In the grand burial procession, the coffin was carried across the Nile to the western bank, the land of the dead, where the sun set each evening. There, amid the sands of Giza or Saqqara, the pyramid awaited. Inside, the burial chamber was stocked with treasures, food, clothing, and sacred texts from the Book of the Dead, all meant to aid the pharaoh's journey. The pyramid's passageways were designed to align with specific stars, ensuring that the soul could find its way to the heavens. But beyond the spiritual purpose, the pharaoh's pyramids served as instruments of unity and identity. They were declarations of stability, proof that the gods favored Egypt. When a pyramid rose from the desert, it was a symbol not only of divine power, but also of national prosperity. It told every Egyptian that their land was blessed, their future secure, their order eternal. The very act of building such monuments kept society cohesive, focused, and anchored in shared belief. Each new pharaoh sought to outshine his predecessors, building larger, more intricate pyramids, not out of rivalry, but to honor the gods more completely. This constant pursuit of perfection drove innovation in architecture, mathematics, and engineering. In the process, Egypt became not only the land of the gods, but also the cradle of civilization itself. So, the age of the pharaohs was not merely an era of kings, it was an age of divine ambition, a time when faith, power, and art merged into something larger than life. Each pharaoh saw himself as a bridge between heaven and earth, a guardian of cosmic balance, and a being whose existence had to be eternal. The pyramids were the manifestation of that belief. They were not merely tombs, they were theology in stone, mathematics in motion, faith turned into architecture. Each one told the same story, that life continues beyond death, that order conquers chaos, and that through divine purpose, humanity can touch the eternal. In the stillness of the desert, under a sky filled with ancient stars, the pyramids stand as reminders of that age, the age of the pharaohs, when man's greatest dream was not to rule the earth, but to join the gods. Before the towering Great Pyramid of Giza captured the world's imagination, and before smooth limestone facades gleamed in the Egyptian sun, the art of pyramid building began with experiments. These early attempts were as much about understanding the possibilities of stone, labor, and mathematics as they were about spirituality. The evolution of the pyramid is a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the relentless desire to touch the divine. In the earliest dynasties, Egyptian rulers were buried in simple structures called mastabas, flat-roofed, rectangular tombs constructed of mud brick or stone. These structures were practical, modest in height, and built to house the pharaoh's sarcophagus and grave goods. Mastabas had underground burial chambers, often reached by narrow staircases or sloping passageways, while they served the practical purpose of preserving the body and possessions. They lacked the grandeur and spiritual symbolism that later pyramids would embody. However, mastabas were more than mere tombs. They contained chapels and offering rooms where priests and family members could perform rituals to honor the deceased. These rituals ensured the pharaoh's ka, the vital essence of life, could sustain itself in the afterlife. The mastaba, then, was already a spiritual engine, but one that reached only a fraction of the symbolic potential the Egyptians imagined. The first major leap came during the reign of Pharaoh Djoser in the Third Dynasty around 2670 BCE. Djoser's tomb, designed by the brilliant architect Imhotep, was revolutionary. Rather than building a single-level mastaba, Imhotep stacked 6 mastabas of decreasing size, creating what we now call the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. Standing over 200 feet tall, it was the first monumental stone structure in human history. What made this construction truly experimental wasn't just its height, but the decision to build entirely with stone. Stone was difficult to quarry, shape, and transport, far more challenging than the mud brick used previously. Yet stone had an enduring quality that mud brick lacked. It was permanent, eternal, and visible from miles away, a symbolic choice that aligned perfectly with the pharaoh's desire for immortality. Even with its success, the step pyramid was far from perfect. Its stepped design, while visually impressive, was not structurally optimal. There were concerns about stability and the potential for collapse. Over time, Egyptian architects learned from these early limitations, gradually moving toward the smooth-sided pyramids that would dominate the landscape in the Fourth Dynasty. Every step in this process, literal and figurative, reflected a combination of experimentation, observation, and a desire to achieve perfection. These early experiments also reveal much about Egyptian society. The step pyramid required thousands of workers, engineers, and laborers, not slaves, as many myths claim, but skilled artisans and seasonal laborers who were well-fed and organized. The construction of Djoser's pyramid necessitated innovations in logistics, including the transport of heavy limestone blocks, the coordination of large workforces, and the development of temporary housing for workers near the site. Each challenge was a lesson learned for future pyramid projects. The evolution didn't stop there. Following Djoser, architects continued experimenting. Pharaohs, like Sneferu, the father of Khufu, pushed the boundaries even further. Sneferu's reign produced the bent pyramid and the red pyramid, which show a clear progression in both engineering and design philosophy. The bent pyramid, built at Dashur, is particularly fascinating. Its lower angles were steep, but mid-construction, the builders adjusted to a shallower slope to prevent collapse. This moment of course correction is a rare window into ancient problem solving. It shows us that the Egyptians were not relying on divine inspiration alone. They were observing, calculating and innovating in real time. The Red Pyramid, also at Dashur, represents the culmination of these early experiments. With smooth sides and a stable design, it foreshadows the architectural sophistication of the Great Pyramid. These experiments highlight a gradual mastery over stone, scale, and engineering, a mastery that would culminate in the Giza Plateau, where the combination of mathematics, astronomy, and spiritual symbolism reached its apex. But beyond engineering, the early experiments were also spiritual laboratories. The Egyptians carefully considered alignment, orientation, and symbolism. Even the step pyramid was oriented toward the cardinal points, reflecting the Egyptians' belief that the tomb had to harmonize with cosmic forces. They were not merely building tombs, they were constructing eternal machines designed to guide the Pharaoh's spirit to the heavens. It is remarkable to consider that every problem the Egyptians faced, from structural instability to massive logistics, was solved without modern tools, machines, or written formulas for physics. Their solutions came from observation, intuition, and trial and error experimentation over decades and centuries. Every pyramid, every iteration, represents not just ambition, but human intelligence tested against the vastness of nature and time. The early experiments also created a cultural rhythm. Each pyramid project was a national endeavor, engaging tens of thousands of people in work, planning, and religious observance. The building of the step pyramid and subsequent projects stimulated the economy, developed infrastructure, and solidified social cohesion. In this way, the early experiments were not just architectural or spiritual ventures, they were social and political instruments, shaping the Egyptian state itself. As we look at the sequence, from mastaba to step pyramid to bent and red pyramids, a pattern emerges. The Egyptians were not rushing, they were deliberate. They understood that building eternal structures required patience, planning, and mastery over materials and labor. These early experiments were critical. Without them, the Giza Plateau, the apex of human pyramid building, might never have existed. Even today, when archaeologists examine the step pyramid complex at Saqqara, they are awed not only by its size, but by the sophistication of its planning. The complex includes ceremonial courts, shrines, and subsidiary pyramids for queens, creating a miniature world designed to mirror the cosmos. It is a bold statement that experimentation, observation, and spiritual vision together can achieve what seems impossible. So, the early experiments in pyramid building were far more than mere trial and error. They were a journey into the limits of human skill, ambition, and belief. They taught lessons about engineering, logistics, and the connection between human labor and divine order. And, perhaps most importantly, they demonstrated the power of imagination, the idea that humans, by combining vision and effort, could create structures meant to outlive not just kings, but empires and civilizations. In the quiet of the desert, with the step pyramid rising against the horizon, one can almost feel the pulse of experimentation, the collective heartbeat of a civilization discovering that the impossible was possible. It was here, in these early, imperfect forms, that the foundation was laid for the pyramids that would inspire awe for thousands of years to come. The journey from the humble mastaba to the iconic pyramid was neither sudden nor accidental. It was a gradual evolution that combined spiritual necessity, social organization, and architectural innovation. To understand this transition, we must look closely at what a mastaba was, why it dominated the early dynastic landscape, and how visionaries like Imhotep transformed it into something extraordinary. Mastabas were, at their core, simple rectangular tombs made of mud brick or, occasionally, stone. They featured flat roofs and slightly sloping sides, often rising just a few meters above the desert floor. The real tomb, the burial chamber, was hidden underground, accessible via narrow staircases or sloped tunnels. This design served a practical purpose: to protect the deceased from grave robbers, the harsh desert sun, and natural decay. But beyond their practicality, mastabas carried symbolic meaning. They represented stability, a miniature earthly palace for the pharaoh in the afterlife. The chambers inside were carefully organized to house offerings, food, and personal items meant to sustain the pharaoh's spirit, or K. The walls of some mastabas were adorned with carvings of daily life, religious rituals, and agricultural scenes. These depictions were not purely decorative, they were magical tools. In Egyptian belief, the act of depicting a servant or a harvest could ensure that it existed eternally for the pharaoh in the next world. As Egyptian society became more sophisticated, the limitations of the mastaba became apparent. Its modest size could not adequately symbolize the pharaoh's divine nature. Pharaohs were considered living gods, and their tombs had to reflect the magnitude of their spiritual power. Moreover, the flat, simple design lacked the vertical symbolism that would later define the pyramids. A mastaba sat passively on the desert floor. It did not reach toward the sky, nor did it guide the pharaoh's spirit toward the heavens. For a civilization obsessed with eternal life, this was insufficient. This is where visionary architects, spiritual thinkers, and powerful rulers came together to innovate. The third dynasty, during the reign of Pharaoh Djoser, marked a turning point. Enter Imhotep, the master architect whose genius would forever alter Egyptian architecture. Imhotep did not discard the mastaba entirely. Instead, he transformed it. He stacked multiple mastabas of progressively smaller sizes atop one another, creating the step pyramid at Saqqara. The step pyramid was more than just a taller tomb. It was a revolutionary concept, merging the functional aspects of the mastaba with the spiritual symbolism of ascent. Each step represented a stage of spiritual elevation, a bridge between earth and the heavens. The stepped design created a vertical rhythm, leading the pharaoh's soul upward as though climbing a cosmic staircase toward immortality. This transition from mastaba to step pyramid reflected both technical innovation and cultural ambition. Stone replaced mud brick, ensuring permanence. The structure was oriented toward the cardinal points, emphasizing cosmic alignment and order. Surrounding the pyramid, ceremonial courts, temples, and subsidiary pyramids were added, creating a complex that functioned as both a religious center and a tomb. In essence, the step pyramid was not merely a building, it was an entire spiritual ecosystem. The evolution did not stop with the step pyramid. Subsequent rulers experimented further, gradually refining the design into the smooth-sided pyramids we associate with Egypt today. Each modification was informed by both observation and experience. The Egyptians realized that the steep, angular steps of the early pyramids posed structural risks. By gradually smoothing the sides and adjusting the slope, they could achieve both stability and aesthetic perfection. This architectural refinement coincided with advances in mathematics, geometry, and astronomy. The Egyptians were not merely builders, they were mathematicians and astronomers, aligning pyramids with precision that continues to astound modern scientists. The angles, the orientation to cardinal points, and the placement in relation to the Nile and the horizon were all deliberate choices. The pyramid became a three-dimensional manifestation of cosmic order, a reflection of the pharaoh's divine role in maintaining Mayat. Moreover, the transition from mastaba to pyramid was deeply intertwined with social and economic organization. Constructing massive stone pyramids required a sophisticated workforce, organized supply chains, and long-term planning. Seasonal workers from agricultural communities were mobilized during the Nile's flooding period when farming was not possible. Craftsmen quarried stone, carved intricate reliefs, and prepared ceremonial chambers, all under the guidance of master builders. The pyramid, therefore, became not just a tomb, but a social instrument uniting communities in a shared spiritual and national purpose. The evolution also reflects a philosophical shift. While Mastabas emphasized the preservation of life in the afterworld, pyramids introduced a vertical dimension of ascent, a bridge to divinity. They were designed to guide the pharaoh's soul upward, to facilitate rebirth in the heavens, and to symbolize the eternal nature of divine kingship. The pyramid was no longer just a resting place. It was a statement of cosmic ambition, a bold declaration of human aspiration to touch the infinite. It is important to note that this transition was not uniform across Egypt. Mastabas continued to be built for lesser nobles, priests, and officials, while pharaohs and elite rulers pushed architectural boundaries. This hierarchy of tomb construction reflected the social and spiritual hierarchy of Egyptian society. The greater the pharaoh's divine power, the more monumental his pyramid became, culminating in structures like the Great Pyramid of Khufu, a project that demanded not just skill, but decades of vision, labor, and devotion. In the quiet desert of Saqqara and later Giza, one can see this evolution etched into the landscape. The mastaba is the seed, the step pyramid, the sprout, and the smooth-sided pyramid, the towering tree, reaching for the heavens. Each stage tells a story of experimentation, observation, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. Together, they map a civilization's journey from practical tombs to monumental statements of faith, power, and cosmic order. The transition from mastabas to pyramids is more than an architectural milestone. It is a reflection of human aspiration. It demonstrates how societies, through faith, ingenuity, and collaboration, transform simple concepts into enduring masterpieces. It reminds us that the monumental pyramids did not appear overnight. They were the culmination of centuries of learning, planning, and spiritual ambition. And as the desert winds sweep across Saqqara and Giza, the story of this transition whispers across the sands. It tells us that every pyramid, no matter how grand, began as an idea, a simple mastaba that dared to rise, step by step, toward eternity. One of the most remarkable and enduring aspects of the pyramids is their perfect alignment. Step back and consider this. The Great Pyramid of Giza, a structure weighing millions of tons and constructed over 45,000 years ago, is aligned almost flawlessly with the cardinal points north, south, east, and west. The sides of the pyramid run with an accuracy of mere minutes of a degree, a feat that continues to baffle modern engineers and astronomers. The question naturally arises, how did the ancient Egyptians, armed only with primitive tools, accomplish such precise orientation? And perhaps more importantly, why did alignment matter so profoundly? The answer lies at the intersection of astronomy, religion, and cosmic symbolism, three pillars of Egyptian civilization. The Egyptians observed the sky with extraordinary care. The desert, with its clear, unpolluted skies, became a natural observatory. Stars, planets, and the sun's movements were meticulously recorded over generations. The circumpolar stars, which never dipped below the horizon, held particular significance. These stars were associated with eternal life, never setting, just as the Pharaoh's soul was meant to endure forever. Aligning the pyramids with these stars symbolically anchored the Pharaoh's tomb in the realm of eternity. One prevailing theory is that the pyramids were aligned with the Orion constellation, representing the god Osiris, ruler of the underworld. The three main pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkore roughly mirror the three stars in Orion's belt. This alignment is not random. It reflects a deliberate attempt to link the pharaohs with the divine order of the cosmos. By orienting their tombs in accordance with celestial patterns, the Egyptians symbolically guaranteed that the pharaohs' souls would join the gods in the heavens. The cardinal orientation of the pyramids also has profound symbolic meaning. North, the direction of the eternal stars, represented immortality and permanence. East, where the sun rises, symbolized rebirth. West, the land of the setting sun, was associated with death and the afterlife. By placing the pyramids in precise alignment with these directions, the Egyptians were not merely displaying technical skill, they were embedding spiritual navigation into stone. The pyramid itself became a cosmic map, a guide for the pharaoh's soul as it journeyed from life to death and ultimately to divine immortality. The methods the Egyptians used to achieve this precision are still debated, but several plausible techniques emerge from historical evidence. One possibility involves sighting the circumpolar stars, using simple instruments like plumb lines, sighting rods, or gnomons. By observing the points where specific stars rose and set, builders could establish true north with remarkable accuracy. Once the cardinal points were determined, they could lay out the pyramid's foundation to ensure perfect orientation. Another theory involves solar observation. By marking the shadow cast by a vertical pole at sunrise and sunset, ancient engineers could establish east-west lines. Perpendicular to this line would provide the north-south axis. This method, though simpler than star sighting, still requires patience, careful observation, and an understanding of seasonal changes in the sun's path, whether by stars, sun, or a combination of both. The Egyptians demonstrated a level of astronomical knowledge that is astonishing even by today's standards. Alignment also extended beyond the individual pyramids to the Giza Plateau as a whole. The pyramids' positions were carefully planned in relation to one another, creating a layout that harmonized with the surrounding landscape. including the Nile River. The river itself may have been considered a celestial reflection, connecting the earthly kingdom to the sky. By situating the pyramids on the west bank, the Egyptians linked the land of the dead with the sun's nightly journey, reinforcing the spiritual significance of both geography and orientation. The precise alignment was not just an engineering feat, it was a ritual act. Each stone placed, each angle measured, was a deliberate contribution to the pharaoh's eternal journey. Misalignment could disrupt the sacred harmony, and in a culture obsessed with Mahat, cosmic order, precision was essential. The act of building became a sacred performance, an earthly mirror of divine perfection. The Egyptians' knowledge of geometry and measurement was integral to this process. They developed sophisticated units of length and angles, and the layout of the pyramid often involved complex calculations to ensure stability, symmetry, and orientation. Modern surveys of the Great Pyramid reveal that the east-west axis is aligned to within a fraction of a degree of true east-west. Considering the tools available at the time, this is a technical achievement that rivals modern engineering. Yet alignment was not merely technical, it was narrative. By orienting the pyramid toward specific stars and cardinal points, the Egyptians were telling a story of life, death, and divine ascension. The pharaoh's journey mirrored the movement of the cosmos: death in the west, rebirth in the east, and eternal life among the northern stars. Each pyramid, therefore, was both tomb and textbook, a lesson in cosmology, theology, and the harmonious order of the universe, written in stone for generations to understand. The mystery deepens when we consider internal alignment, chambers, passageways, and shafts inside the Great Pyramid are also oriented with remarkable precision. The so-called air shafts in the king's and queen's chambers align with certain stars, possibly guiding the pharaoh's soul toward specific divine destinations. Whether functional or symbolic, these internal orientations reinforce the idea that the pyramid was designed as a cosmic instrument, not just a tomb. The pyramid's alignment has fascinated scholars, engineers, and astronomers for centuries, inspiring theories ranging from advanced ancient technology to divine intervention. But perhaps the true wonder lies not in any one theory, but in the Egyptians' ability to merge practical engineering, spiritual belief, and cosmic observation into a single monumental act. They weren't building tombs alone. They were building a connection to eternity. In this light, the Giza pyramids are more than monuments. They are messages in stone, addressed to the heavens. Their alignment is the language, their orientation, the grammar, and their massive stones, the punctuation. The pyramids speak of cosmic order, human ingenuity, and a civilization that understood its place in the universe. Standing today on the Giza Plateau, with the desert wind brushing across the ancient stone, one cannot help but feel the power of this alignment. The pyramids do not merely rise from the sand, they reach, precisely and deliberately, toward the eternal. They are reminders that the ancient Egyptians were not just builders of tombs, they were observers of the cosmos, mathematicians of stone, and architects of eternity. When we gaze upon the Great Pyramid of Giza, it is easy to be awed by its sheer size. But the awe only deepens when we consider what it took to build it. Over 2 million limestone and granite blocks, each weighing several tons, were quarried, transported, and precisely positioned to create a structure that would endure for millennia. Behind every stone lay an intricate system of labor, planning, and craftsmanship, all working in harmony to achieve a goal that was as spiritual as it was monumental. The first step in understanding the construction is to consider the materials. The bulk of the pyramids was made from limestone, quarried locally from the Giza Plateau. This material, relatively soft and easy to cut, was ideal for building the massive core of the pyramid. The limestone blocks were precisely shaped using copper chisels and dolerite pounding stones, a method that required immense skill and patience. For the outer casing, Egyptians often used higher quality Tura limestone, polished to reflect sunlight and give the pyramids a dazzling, almost heavenly glow. This casing stone has mostly eroded or been removed over millennia, leaving the rough inner core we see today. But not all stone came from the plateau. For special chambers and passages, granite was used, quarried from Aswan, over 500 miles away. Moving these massive granite blocks required ingenuity. The Egyptians used sledges to haul the stones, and some experiments suggest that they lubricated the sand with water to reduce friction, making it easier to move loads weighing several tons. This simple yet effective technique demonstrates their understanding of physics and materials, long before such concepts were formally documented. Of course, stone alone does not build a pyramid. Behind every block was a labor force, organized, motivated, and highly skilled. Contrary to the old stereotype of a slave labor, archaeological evidence shows that the pyramid workforce consisted of seasonal laborers, skilled craftsmen, and permanent supervisors. Workers were organized into crews, each with specialized roles: quarrying, transporting, shaping, and placing stones, as well as constructing ramps and managing logistics. Many of these laborers lived in nearby villages with barracks, bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities, indicating that the project was a massive and highly organized state enterprise. Recent discoveries of workers' tombs at Giza reveal that these laborers were well fed and cared for, challenging centuries of misunderstanding. They consumed a diet rich in bread, fish, and meat, and some evidence suggests they were even revered for their service. For these men and women, building the pyramid was not punishment, it was a sacred duty. They were participating in a divine act, ensuring the Pharaoh's journey to the afterlife and, in doing so, affirming the stability of the kingdom itself. The workforce was divided into teams called files, each consisting of hundreds or thousands of workers. These teams rotated on a seasonal schedule, often tied to the flooding of the Nile. During the flood, when agricultural work was impossible, peasants joined construction projects, providing both manpower and sustaining the national economy. This rotational system ensured efficiency, prevented overwork, and allowed the Egyptians to mobilize massive labor without destabilizing society. The tools of pyramid building were relatively simple but extraordinarily effective. Copper chisels, wooden mallets, stone hammers, and ropes were the primary implements. Craftsmen used these to shape enormous blocks with precision. Wooden sledges transported stone across sand and ramps, while levers and pulleys helped maneuver them into position. Though rudimentary by modern standards, the Egyptians' tools were sufficient because of their careful planning, precise measurements, and collective skill. The construction process itself became a form of choreography, with thousands of hands moving in synchrony, guided by master builders who acted as engineers, architects, and project managers. Speaking of ramps, one of the most debated aspects of pyramid construction is how such massive stones were lifted to great heights. Archaeologists propose several methods: straight ramps extending from the base, zigzagging ramps along the pyramid's sides, and spiral ramps built around the structure. Each method has its advantages and limitations, and evidence suggests that Egyptians may have used multiple ramp strategies, adjusting their approach as the pyramid grew taller. The careful placement of ramps and sledges highlights their understanding of physics and mechanics, proving that these structures were the product of careful thought, not brute force. Logistics extended beyond stones and ramps. Food, water, tools, and living supplies had to be coordinated for thousands of workers. Records indicate that the pyramid complex included granaries, bakeries, and storage facilities, ensuring the workforce could sustain itself throughout years, even decades, of construction. This level of planning required administrative skill and organizational sophistication unmatched by contemporary civilizations. The coordination of labor, material, and purpose was not just about practicality, it was also spiritual. Every stone laid, every ramp built, every worker's effort contributed to the Pharaoh's eternal journey. The act of construction was itself a ritual, an offering to the gods. In this sense, the labor force was not just building a monument, they were performing a sacred duty that bridged the mortal and divine worlds. Their hands, guided by faith and discipline, were shaping eternity itself. Modern experiments have tested these ancient methods. Archaeologists and engineers have successfully moved multi-ton stones using replicas of sledges, ramps, and wet sand lubrication. These demonstrations confirm that the Egyptians' techniques were both clever and effective. What is truly remarkable, however, is that they achieved this on a scale never before attempted in human history. Each pyramid involved millions of blocks, meticulous measurement, and absolute coordination, all completed without wheels, cranes, or modern machinery. The workforce itself represents a remarkable feat of human organization. By combining skilled artisans with seasonal laborers, the Egyptians created a workforce capable of sustaining decades-long projects. They integrated architecture, logistics, nutrition, and social structure into a single, unified system. The pyramid was as much a societal masterpiece as an architectural one, demonstrating that civilization and monumental achievement are inseparable. In the end, the building materials and workforce reveal an essential truth. The pyramids were not merely tombs, but the product of human ingenuity, labor, and devotion. Limestone and granite provided permanence. Copper chisels and wooden sledges provided function. Skilled laborers and seasonal workers provided the human heart and effort. And the Pharaoh, as both divine and mortal, provided the spiritual impetus that transformed construction into creation. Standing before the Great Pyramid today, it is easy to forget the human story behind the stones, but each block is a testament to thousands of lives, coordinated effort, and centuries of accumulated knowledge. The pyramid's enduring presence is a tribute not only to divine kingship, but also to the collective genius of a civilization capable of turning sand, stone, and human effort into a monument that would stand for eternity. When we look at the pyramids today, it is easy to forget that each colossal stone, some weighing several tons, was carved, shaped, and positioned entirely by human hands using what we would now consider primitive tools. Yet, the Egyptians were masters of stonework, combining ingenuity, patience, and sheer determination to transform raw rock into structures that have stood for millennia. The tools they used, while simple, became extensions of their will, turning the desert into a cathedral of permanence. The primary tool for carving limestone was the copper chisel, a soft metal by modern standards, but highly effective against relatively soft stone. Craftsmen would strike these chisels with wooden mallets to slowly chip away the rock, producing perfectly shaped blocks. To cut harder stones like granite, used for chambers and sarcophagi, the Egyptians employed dolerite pounding stones, dense rocks harder than the granite itself. By repeatedly pounding the surface, they could break the stone along natural fractures, creating workable blocks with precision. This process required patience, skill, and an intimate understanding of the stone's properties. Ropes, levers, and wooden sledges were equally critical. Once a block was shaped, it had to be moved from the quarry to the pyramid site. For the larger stones, teams of workers dragged sledges across sand and ramps. Archaeological evidence suggests they may have poured water on the sand to reduce friction, allowing smoother movement of even the heaviest blocks. This simple but ingenious method demonstrates that the Egyptians understood mechanical principles intuitively long before these principles were formally described. Measuring and aligning the stones demanded remarkable precision. Craftsmen used plumb bobs to ensure vertical alignment, levels to maintain horizontal accuracy, and squares to produce perfect right angles. Rope stretched with knots at regular intervals provided consistent measurements for laying out walls and chambers. Despite the lack of modern instruments, the precision achieved in many pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid, is astonishing. For example, the base of Khufu's pyramid is level to within mere centimeters, over 230 meters, a feat that continues to amaze engineers today. Work was organized meticulously. Teams of masons, carpenters, and laborers were assigned specific roles, ensuring that each block was cut, finished, and placed with care. The Egyptians even had specialized stone cutters, skilled artisans capable of sculpting intricate hieroglyphs and decorative reliefs into the walls of burial chambers. These inscriptions were not merely decorative, they were magical tools intended to guide the pharaoh's soul and invoke divine protection. Every chiseling stroke was both practical and sacred, blending craftsmanship with religious purpose. The design and construction of ramps also reflect the Egyptians' inventive spirit. Archaeologists debate the exact method, but evidence supports multiple strategies. Straight ramps allowed direct hauling of stones up a long incline, while zigzag ramps reduced the slope's steepness, making lifting easier. Some theories suggest spiral ramps encircled the pyramid as it rose, allowing stones to be moved in stages. The careful use of levers, ropes, and manpower on these ramps reveals a complex understanding of forces and weight distribution, a knowledge applied with practical brilliance. Beyond the physical tools, the Egyptians relied on mental tools, planning, observation, and communal coordination. Each block required careful measurement, calculation, and placement. Mistakes were costly. Even a small misalignment could compromise structural stability. Yet, the Egyptians developed a system of checks and supervision, with master builders overseeing each phase of construction. Their approach was methodical, almost scientific, combining experimentation with empirical observation, a precursor to modern engineering methodology. Some tools served dual purposes. For instance, copper chisels could carve stone, but also mark lines for alignment. Wooden mallets were not only used to strike chisels, but also to adjust positioning and provide leverage. Even the sand itself became a tool. Workers used it to cushion blocks, control friction, and guide placement. These creative uses of materials highlight the Egyptians' resourcefulness, turning limited resources into instruments capable of shaping eternity. The tools of stone and will also extended to ritual acts during construction. Many workers inscribed their names, marks, or prayers onto stones before placement, embedding devotion into the very fabric of the pyramid. These acts were believed to imbue the structure with spiritual energy, connecting the physical labor to cosmic order. In this way, tools were not merely mechanical instruments, they were conduits of human intention, connecting mortal effort to divine purpose. We must also consider the scale of coordination, moving millions of stones, precisely shaped and perfectly aligned, required an unprecedented level of organization. Each worker knew their role, and the rhythm of labor mirrored a spiritual cadence. There was artistry in repetition, block after block, measured, carved, and set in place, gradually transforming raw stone into a monument that would outlive generations. The pyramid was as much a social and engineering achievement as it was a religious one. Modern experiments reinforce the ingenuity of these techniques. Scholars and engineers have successfully replicated pyramid construction methods using sledges, ramps, ropes, and water lubrication. These experiments demonstrate that while labor intensive, the methods were entirely feasible, yet they require discipline, skill, and coordination on a massive scale. The ancient Egyptians didn't just have tools, they had a system, a workforce, methods, and knowledge that allowed these tools to perform miracles in stone. Ultimately, the tools of stone and will reflect a civilization that understood the interplay between matter and human intention. A copper chisel alone could not build a pyramid. A sledge alone could not move stones across the desert. It was the combination of human ingenuity, collective effort, and spiritual purpose that transformed simple tools into instruments capable of achieving eternity. Every block placed with precision was a testament to both human skill and divine vision. The pyramids endure not only because of stone and mortar, but because of the ingenuity, discipline, and devotion of the people who wielded these tools. They were craftsmen, engineers, laborers, and visionaries rolled into one, turning a desert into a stage for immortality. The Great Pyramid, rising silently against the Egyptian sky, stands as proof. With the right combination of tools, will, and vision, humanity can create works that transcend time, space, and even mortality itself. To truly understand the pyramids, we must understand the Pharaoh, not as a mere ruler, but as a living god whose existence bridged the human and divine worlds. In ancient Egyptian society, The pharaoh was considered both mortal and immortal, the earthly embodiment of divine authority, and the key to maintaining the cosmic balance of Ma'at. This dual nature is central to why pyramids were built and why their construction was more than engineering. It was a spiritual imperative. From the moment a pharaoh ascended to the throne, his role was as much religious as political. He was Horus in life, the falcon-headed god of kingship and the sky, and Osiris in death, ruler of the afterlife. This belief created a profound responsibility. The pharaoh's actions maintained harmony across Egypt and ensured the continuation of life itself. When the pharaoh performed rituals, offered prayers, or participated in temple ceremonies, he was not simply practicing religion, he was actively sustaining the universe. The pyramid was the ultimate expression of this divine connection. Unlike ordinary tombs, it was designed as a conduit between Earth and the cosmos, guiding the pharaoh's soul, the Ka, on its journey to join the gods. Every aspect of a pyramid's design reflected this spiritual mission: its alignment with stars, its orientation to cardinal points, its ascending passages, and even the precise measurements of its chambers. The pyramid was more than stone, it was a sacred machine, engineered to bridge life and eternity. Each pharaoh approached his pyramid as a personal and cosmic project. The construction process began as soon as he assumed power, often decades before death, emphasizing the importance of preparation for the afterlife. Planning involved not only architects and engineers, but also priests, astrologers, and state officials. Together, they designed a structure that would honor the pharaoh's divine essence and secure his passage into the eternal realm. In this way, the pyramid was a reflection of the pharaoh's divine identity, a stone manifestation of spiritual authority. The pharaoh's divine connection extended to the materials used in construction. Limestone, granite, and other stones were chosen not only for durability, but for their symbolic qualities. White limestone, polished to reflect sunlight, symbolized the radiance of the gods, while red granite was associated with power and eternal life. Each block was an offering, a gift from the earth, elevated by human hands into a vessel of sacred purpose. The pharaoh, though no longer present in body, remained central to this act. His divinity infused every stone. Inside the pyramid, the spiritual connection continued. Burial chambers were often decorated with hieroglyphs and inscriptions from the Book of the Dead, a sacred text providing guidance for the soul in the afterlife. These texts were more than instructions. They were magical instruments, ensuring the pharaoh's safe passage through trials, challenges, and judgment by the gods. The pyramid became a sacred map, its corridors and chambers guiding the pharaoh's spirit through the cosmic journey he was destined to complete. The pyramid's design also reflects the pharaoh's relationship with celestial bodies. The Great Pyramid, for example, is aligned with the circumpolar stars, the imperishable stars that never set below the horizon, symbolizing eternity. Certain shafts within the pyramid point toward specific stars associated with deities, potentially guiding the pharaoh's spirit directly to these divine realms. Every architectural choice reinforced the notion that the pharaoh was traveling from mortality to godhood, his life extending beyond the physical world into the eternal. Rituals performed during construction further strengthened the divine connection. Workers inscribed their marks, prayers, and offerings onto blocks, while priests conducted ceremonies to consecrate the stones. These acts imbued the pyramid with sacred energy, transforming the labor process into a spiritual endeavor. The pharaoh, though alive, was part of this ritual continuum. His presence, authority, and divinity animated the building itself. In essence, the pyramid was co-created by human hands and divine will. This connection between pharaoh and pyramid also had profound social implications. By linking the king's eternity to a monumental structure visible across the land, the pyramids reinforced the pharaoh's spiritual authority. They were symbols of stability, power, and divine favor, reminding the people that their ruler was eternal and that the kingdom was protected. This visibility and permanence created a psychological and cultural cohesion, uniting the populace under shared belief in the pharaoh's divinity and the cosmic order he maintained. Even the process of burial emphasized the pharaoh's divine transformation. The body was mummified, organs preserved, and jewelry or sacred items placed alongside him, ensuring that his physical form could support his spiritual essence. Funerary rituals, often elaborate and conducted over many days, invoked the gods and reinforced the pharaoh's role as both mortal king and eternal deity. The pyramid became the stage for this sacred transformation, a structure designed not just for preservation, but for metaphysical ascension. Over time, this divine connection influenced the design of successive pyramids. Pharaohs sought to outdo their predecessors, not merely in size, but in symbolic power. Each pyramid became a more refined instrument for guiding the pharaoh's soul, aligned more accurately with stars, crafted from superior materials, and structured to reflect both divine order and cosmic perfection. This continuous refinement demonstrates how central the spiritual mission was to pyramid construction. It was not vanity, but devotion and cosmic responsibility. In this context, the pyramids were never just tombs. They were sacred instruments, engineered to ensure the pharaoh's eternal life and to maintain harmony in the mortal realm. They symbolized the pharaoh's unique status as the intermediary between gods and humanity, a being whose life and death affected the very order of existence. Their construction merged religion, architecture, astronomy, and human ingenuity into a singular act of devotion, creating monuments that continue to inspire awe thousands of years later. Ultimately, the divine connection between pharaohs and pyramids reminds us that these structures were not built merely for kings, but for the cosmos itself. Each pyramid is a testament to faith, authority, and the belief that human life, when aligned with the divine, can transcend mortality. They stand as eternal bridges between earth and heaven, between man and God, and between life and the infinite. In the silence of the desert, where the stones of Giza rise against the sky, one can almost feel this sacred energy, the echo of divine kingship, the pulse of human devotion, and the eternal connection between Pharaoh and cosmos, embodied in stone, measured in centuries, and visible for eternity. Standing tall against the horizon of Giza, the Great Pyramid of Khufu is not simply a structure, it is a statement. For more than 4 millennia, it held the title of the tallest man-made structure on Earth, an achievement that would not be surpassed until the rise of medieval cathedrals. Even now, stripped of its smooth limestone casing and weathered by time, the Great Pyramid remains an engineering enigma, a fusion of geometry, precision, and cosmic symbolism that continues to defy full comprehension. Built around 2560 BCE for Pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops, the Great Pyramid originally rose to about 481 feet, 146 meters. Today, it stands slightly shorter, at 455 feet, due to the loss of its outer casing and capstone. Its base spans more than 13 acres, with each side measuring roughly 756 feet. The precision of this construction is almost beyond belief. The base is level to within less than an inch, and the sides are aligned to true north with an accuracy of less than 1/20th of a degree. For a structure composed of more than 2 million limestone and granite blocks, many weighing between 2 and 15 tons, this precision represents a level of mastery that modern engineers still struggle to replicate. The pyramid's layout is deceptively simple. 4 triangular sides meeting at a single point above a square base. Yet beneath this apparent simplicity lies complexity and genius. The pyramid's proportions are not random. They embody mathematical relationships that suggest a deep understanding of geometry and perhaps even astronomy. The ratio of the perimeter to the height of the pyramid approximates 2p, leading some researchers to speculate that the builders intentionally encoded mathematical constants within its design. Whether coincidence or deliberate, this harmony of form and proportion gives the pyramid an aesthetic balance unmatched in ancient architecture. The outer structure once gleamed with polished white Tura limestone, casing stones, so finely joined that the seams were nearly invisible. Under the blazing Egyptian sun, the pyramid would have shone like a giant mirror, reflecting light across the Nile and visible for miles. It is said that the people of ancient Memphis could see its radiant surface from afar, shimmering like a beacon of divine power. Today, only a few casing stones remain at the base, but they hint at the pyramid's original splendor, a monument not of dull stone, but of luminous perfection. The pyramid's interior is an entirely different world, a labyrinth of passageways, chambers, and shafts, all meticulously engineered. The entrance, located on the north face, descends through the so-called descending passage into a subterranean chamber cut deep into the bedrock. This unfinished chamber may have served as an early burial chamber or a symbolic connection to the underworld. From the descending passage, another corridor, the ascending passage, leads upward into the heart of the pyramid, opening into the Grand Gallery, one of the most remarkable interior spaces in ancient architecture. The Grand Gallery is a narrow, steeply sloped corridor over 150 feet long and nearly 30 feet high. Its corbelled walls, layers of stone projecting inward with each course, display extraordinary craftsmanship, distributing weight evenly and preventing collapse. The gallery's precision is astonishing. The stones fit together so tightly that even a blade cannot pass between them. Leading upward, the Grand Gallery guides the eye, and symbolically, the Pharaoh's soul, toward the king's chamber, the final resting place of Khufu. The king's chamber is constructed entirely from massive blocks of red granite transported from Aswan hundreds of miles to the south. Each block weighs between 25 and 80 tons, and yet they are fitted with impeccable precision. The ceiling consists of 9 enormous granite beams, each weighing more than 50 tons, arranged to support the immense weight of the pyramid above. Above this ceiling, 5 additional relieving chambers are stacked, each separated by massive granite slabs. These chambers distribute the structural load, preventing the collapse of the burial chamber below, a feat of architectural foresight rarely matched in any era. Within the king's chamber sits the sarcophagus of Khufu, carved from a single piece of granite. It is slightly too large to fit through the passageways, indicating that it must have been placed in the chamber before the pyramid was sealed. This detail alone reveals how meticulously the entire structure was planned, from the placement of each block to the sequence of construction. Everything was foreseen, calculated, and executed with absolute precision. 2 narrow shafts extend from the king's chamber to the exterior, traditionally referred to as air shafts, though their purpose is still debated. Some scholars believe they served symbolic or spiritual functions rather than practical ones. Their alignment with specific stars, such as Orion's belt and Sirius, suggests that they may have been designed to channel the pharaoh's soul toward the heavens, connecting him with the gods of eternity. The queen's chamber, located lower in the pyramid, has similar shafts, further supporting the theory that these channels were intended for cosmic alignment rather than ventilation. The question of how such a structure was built has fascinated scholars for centuries. Theories abound: straight ramps, zigzagging ramps, spiral ramps, but none fully explain the logistics of lifting multi-ton blocks hundreds of feet into the air. Modern experiments show that with sufficient manpower, ropes, and sledges, such feats are possible, but they require coordination on a scale unprecedented in the ancient world. Estimates suggest that as many as 20,000 to 30,000 workers, not slaves, but skilled laborers, may have labored for 2 decades to complete Khufu's pyramid. Each stone, each angle, and each measurement reflects not only human effort, but also mathematical precision, astronomical awareness, and spiritual devotion. The Great Pyramid's alignment to the cardinal points is another marvel. Its sides face north, south, east, and west with extraordinary accuracy, a feat that likely required observations of circumpolar stars and careful calculation. This alignment was not mere aesthetic choice. It symbolized the pharaoh's connection to the cosmic order. The north, associated with the eternal stars, represented immortality. The east, where the sun rose, symbolized rebirth. By anchoring his tomb in cosmic alignment, Khufu ensured that his spirit would forever participate in the celestial cycle of life, death, and renewal. Even today, the pyramid's internal temperature remains remarkably constant, around 68 degrees Fahrenheit, despite the desert's extremes of heat and cold. Its geometric perfection, orientation, and mass have led some researchers to describe it as a stone computer, a physical structure that embodies the Egyptians' understanding of balance, energy, and cosmic harmony. Whether viewed through the lens of science, religion, or art, It is a masterpiece of integration, where engineering precision and spiritual symbolism converge into one enduring creation. The Great Pyramid is not merely a monument to Khufu's reign. It is a manifesto of human potential. Every stone carries the echo of coordinated effort, the hum of collective belief, and the pulse of divine ambition. The structure embodies the Egyptian conviction that death is not an end, but a transformation. As the pyramid rises from the desert, its massive sides ascending toward the sky, it mirrors the pharaoh's own journey, from dust to divinity, from earth to the eternal stars. To stand before the Great Pyramid is to stand before a paradox. It is both human and superhuman, both material and metaphysical. It was built by hands that bled and backs that strained, yet it was conceived in a vision that transcends mortality. It is an engineering marvel, yes, but also a hymn in stone, a declaration that the boundary between human and divine can be crossed, one perfect angle at a time. The Great Pyramid of Khufu has been explored, measured, mapped, and analyzed for centuries, yet it continues to guard its mysteries with stubborn silence. Its immense stone corridors and precision-cut chambers conceal secrets that have resisted the efforts of archaeologists, engineers, and scientists alike. For every discovery made within its depths, new questions arise, questions that remind us that this ancient monument may still hold undiscovered spaces, untold treasures, and deeper meanings waiting just beyond the reach of our instruments. Inside, the Great Pyramid feels less like a tomb and more like a machine, a structure designed for a specific and sacred function. Every corridor, chamber, and passage appears deliberate, each dimension carefully calculated. The moment you step into its dark, narrow tunnels, the air changes, the silence becomes tangible, the temperature, a consistent coolness, wraps around you like the weight of history itself. The deeper one ventures, the stronger the sense that this was never meant for mortal habitation, but for something beyond human life, for transition, for eternity. Most visitors who enter the pyramid today walk the path of the ancient builders, beginning at the original entrance, high on the northern face, descending through the cramped corridor that slopes downward at a steep angle. The floor is slick from centuries of footsteps, the walls close enough to brush both shoulders. The passage stretches for nearly 100 feet before reaching a junction, the first of many architectural puzzles. Here, the descending corridor continues deep into the bedrock, ending in the so-called subterranean chamber, while the ascending passage rises toward the heart of the pyramid. The subterranean chamber is one of the most mysterious spaces in all of ancient Egypt. Rough hewn from solid limestone, it appears unfinished, its walls and ceiling left raw, its floor uneven and incomplete. Scholars have long debated its purpose. Some argue it was an early burial chamber, abandoned when plans changed. Others believe it had a symbolic role, representing the underworld or the womb of creation from which the pharaoh's soul would ascend. The air here is heavy, still, almost otherworldly. There is a small niche cut into the floor, a dark, rectangular pit that seems to plunge endlessly downward, a shaft into the unknown. Even today, it gives off a sense of unease, as if it conceals something unseen, something ancient and silent that defies explanation. Climbing back up, the ascending passage leads toward one of the pyramid's most remarkable spaces, the Grand Gallery. The sudden shift in scale from narrow crawl space to towering hallway is breathtaking. The gallery stretches upward with perfectly cut corbelled walls, each layer of stone slightly overhanging the one below it, forming a long sloping vault that almost feels alive in its precision. Some have called it the spine of the pyramid, a central artery channeling energy and purpose upward toward the royal chambers. The walls are smooth, the joints between stones nearly invisible. This was no random construction. It was artistry, mathematics, and devotion carved into stone. At the end of the gallery lies the small antechamber, guarded by a series of grooves and slots carved into the walls. These likely once held granite portcullises, massive sliding blocks designed to seal the passage after the pharaoh's burial. Beyond these barriers lies the king's chamber, with its polished red granite walls and sarcophagus. Yet even here, in what should be the final destination, mysteries remain. Above the chamber's ceiling are the relieving chambers, 5 stacked cavities of stone beams designed to distribute weight. When the uppermost chamber was first entered in the 19th century by British explorer Colonel Howard Vyse, the walls were found covered with ancient quarry marks, including hieroglyphs bearing Khufu's name. These marks confirmed that the pyramid was indeed built for Khufu, silencing centuries of speculation. But some still question their authenticity, suggesting Vyse may have discovered more than he should have, and perhaps left his own mark on history. Even more mysterious are the narrow shafts extending from both the king's and queen's chambers. When modern researchers explored these with robotic cameras, they discovered that the shafts did not simply lead outside as once believed. In the queen's chamber, both shafts end with small, sealed limestone doors fitted with copper handles, perfectly crafted, precisely positioned. In 2011, a robotic probe sent beyond one of these doors revealed yet another sealed barrier behind it, implying that there may be hidden chambers or objects within the stone. What lies beyond remains unknown. Some believe these spaces may contain ritual objects, symbolic offerings, or even messages intended for the gods. Others think the shafts themselves were purely ceremonial, pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the stars. Recent scientific efforts have brought new revelations. In 2017, a team using a technology called muon radiography, which measures subatomic particles passing through rock, detected a large void above the Grand Gallery. This hidden space, roughly 100 feet long, is unlike any known chamber in the pyramid. Its exact shape and purpose remain a mystery. Some suggest it may be a relieving structure, like those above the king's chamber, designed to reduce pressure. Others believe it may be an undiscovered ceremonial chamber, intentionally concealed from all but the gods. Whatever it is, the Big Void, as it has been called, is the first major internal discovery in the pyramid in more than 1,000 years. To imagine what might still be hidden within is to glimpse the mind of ancient Egypt. The pyramid is a labyrinth not only of stone, but of meaning. Every hidden passage and sealed door may represent layers of symbolism, the journey of the soul, the trials of rebirth, the barriers between life and the divine. The Egyptians believed that knowledge was sacred, that secrets protected the sanctity of power. Perhaps the builders intentionally concealed chambers, sealing them away forever as part of the pyramid's cosmic design. The notion of hidden chambers has fueled imagination for centuries. From Herodotus to modern archaeologists, explorers have speculated about undiscovered rooms filled with texts, treasures, or relics of unimaginable importance. Yet, the Egyptians' concept of wealth was spiritual, not material. The true treasure of the pyramid was not gold, but immortality, the pharaoh's successful passage into eternity. Still, it's difficult not to wonder whether the ancient builders, masters of concealment and precision, left behind more than symbolism. Every sealed stone, every unmarked corner, hints that there may still be more to uncover, hidden in silence and darkness for over 4,000 years. Perhaps that is the pyramid's greatest secret, that it continues to remind us of how little we truly know. In a world where so much has been uncovered, so much explained, the Great Pyramid still holds its ground as an enduring mystery, a riddle in limestone and granite, built by hands that understood more than we may ever fully grasp. Standing inside its silent chambers, one feels not merely small, but humbled, aware that this ancient structure was designed to outlast empires, languages, and even memory itself. It is both a tomb and a question, whispering through the ages that some knowledge is meant to be pursued, but never entirely possessed. The Great Pyramid's hidden chambers, whether real or metaphorical, represent humanity's eternal curiosity, the hunger to know, to understand, to reach beyond what is visible. And perhaps, in that endless search, we find the truest reflection of the pyramid's builders themselves, seekers of eternity, crafting immortality in stone. For centuries, people imagined the pyramids were built by slaves, endless lines of exhausted men under the lash of cruel overseers, laboring beneath the desert sun. It's an image made popular by ancient Greek writers and reinforced by modern imagination. But archaeology, that patient sifter of truth from sand, has revealed a very different story. The Great Pyramid and its siblings were not built by slaves, but by an extraordinary community of skilled laborers, craftsmen, and engineers, people whose lives were devoted to creating eternity in stone. Their story begins on the Giza Plateau, where the pyramids rise like mountains of geometry against the sky. Surrounding these monuments, archaeologists have uncovered the ruins of vast workers' villages, complete with bakeries, breweries, workshops, barracks, and cemeteries. These discoveries have transformed our understanding of pyramid construction. The builders were organized, fed, and housed on a scale rivaling a modern city. They were not captives. They were citizens, conscripted from across Egypt to serve their king and their gods in an act of sacred duty. The workforce was divided into groups known as crews, each consisting of several hundred men. These were further broken down into smaller teams of about 40, called Pharaohs, a system that ensured every aspect of construction ran with precision and discipline. Evidence of this structure appears in graffiti left behind by the builders themselves. On the blocks of the Great Pyramid, archaeologists have found inscriptions naming teams like the Drunkards of Menkore or the Friends of Khufu. These casual marks, half humor, half pride, humanize the workers, showing that they took deep ownership of their task. They were not anonymous laborers lost to history. They were teams, craftsmen, and patriots working toward a divine vision. Estimates of the total workforce vary, but the most accepted figure lies between 20 and 30,000 people. Not all worked at once. Some were permanent skilled craftsmen, while others were seasonal laborers drawn from farming communities during the annual Nile flood, when agricultural work was impossible. This system allowed Egypt to harness massive human resources without disrupting its economy. When the river rose and fields lay underwater, men traveled to Giza to contribute to the king's eternal home. It was not just labor, it was a pilgrimage of devotion. Life in the workers' village was surprisingly organized and, by ancient standards, comfortable. Excavations reveal that workers were well fed, receiving daily rations of bread, beer, and meat. Bones from cattle, sheep, and goats show that thousands of animals were slaughtered each week to feed the workforce. This diet was richer than that of ordinary peasants, indicating that the state took care to maintain the builders' strength and morale. They worked hard, but they were respected for their service. These men were not disposable, they were essential. The logistics of feeding, housing, and managing tens of thousands of workers required extraordinary planning. The workers' village stretched along the base of the plateau, with large dormitory-style quarters, storage silos, bakeries, and even a hospital. Archaeologists have found evidence of medical treatment, bones showing healed fractures, and surgeries that suggest a level of care unexpected for laborers. This is not the picture of oppression, it is the image of an organized, state-supported workforce dedicated to a project of national and religious significance. The builders themselves came from all walks of Egyptian life. Stone masons and quarry workers labored alongside carpenters, rope makers, and potters. Each had a specific task, part of a vast and interlocking system. The quarrymen cut limestone from nearby cliffs using copper chisels, wooden wedges, and stone hammers. Others hauled the massive blocks on sledges, lubricated with water to reduce friction, a technique confirmed by wall paintings showing workers pouring liquid before moving stone. Teams of boatmen ferried granite from Aswan, 500 miles south, navigating the Nile with monumental cargo. It was a feat of coordination that rivals any modern construction effort. At the top of this hierarchy stood master builders, engineers, architects, and priests of geometry who calculated alignments, designed chambers, and ensured that every block found its precise place. The overseer of Khufu's pyramid, a man named Hemiunu, left his mark in history. His tomb, near the Great Pyramid, identifies him as vizier and overseer of all construction projects of the king. It is likely that Hemiunu managed not only logistics, but also the spiritual dimension of the project, ensuring that every phase aligned with ritual and cosmic order. For in ancient Egypt, architecture was never separate from the sacred. Work was grueling, but rhythmic. Teams worked in rotating shifts, possibly lasting 3 months at a time. During daylight, the plateau thundered with the sound of chisels, sledges, and shouted commands. At night, the site fell silent, except for the wind sweeping over unfinished stones. Some workers lived and died on the site. In the nearby workers' cemetery, archaeologists have uncovered neatly arranged graves, men and women buried with respect, some with small offerings of pottery and food. These were not slaves thrown into mass pits, but valued citizens honored for their service to the divine king. The emotional bond between workers and their task should not be underestimated. To the Egyptians, the pharaoh was not merely a ruler, he was the living embodiment of Horus, a god whose well-being sustained the world. Building his eternal home was an act of faith, an offering to ensure balance, prosperity, and cosmic harmony. Each stone lifted toward the sky was a prayer made tangible. The workers might never have met Khufu, yet through their labor, they participated in his divinity. The pyramid was not just his afterlife, it was theirs too, a monument that carried their names, sweat, and spirit into eternity. Still, challenges abounded. The sheer logistics of moving multi-ton blocks required ingenious problem solving. Wooden sledges, dragged by teams of men, were guided up ramps that spiraled around the growing pyramid. The ramps themselves were built from mud brick, rubble, and gypsum, dismantled once each level was complete. As each course of stone was added, the workers adjusted the incline, maintaining a continuous flow of material to the summit. The process was backbreaking, but also precise, a symphony of human coordination conducted by architects of near superhuman foresight. The builders' achievements did not end when the last stone was placed. They were part of something larger than their own lives, an eternal narrative. When the final casing stones were polished and the capstone set in place, the pyramid stood not as a monument to Khufu alone, but to every man and woman who had labored on the plateau. The workers' village eventually faded, its homes reclaimed by sand, but the pyramid remained, carrying their story across the centuries. It is tempting to imagine these men standing at the end of their work, gazing upward as the sun reflected off the finished pyramid, a blinding tower of light stretching into the heavens. In that moment, they must have felt the weight of what they had achieved, not just a tomb, but a miracle in stone, a structure that would stand for eternity, proof that human hands, guided by faith and purpose, could create something divine. In the end, the builders of the pyramids were more than laborers. They were the first engineers of civilization, architects of eternity. Their names may be lost, but their legacy remains in every stone of Giza, each block still echoing with the rhythm of their hearts. The pyramids are their monument too, a timeless reminder that greatness is not achieved by rulers alone, but by the countless souls who build the dreams of gods. The construction of the pyramids stands as one of the greatest achievements in human history, not merely because of the monumental scale, but because of the remarkable ingenuity and innovation required to make them possible. Ancient Egyptian builders had no cranes, no modern machinery, and yet they managed to quarry, transport, shape, and place millions of massive stones with astonishing precision. The secret to their success lies in a combination of simple tools, inventive techniques, and an understanding of physics and organization that was centuries ahead of its time. At the heart of this innovation were the tools themselves. Copper chisels, though soft by modern standards, were the primary instrument for shaping limestone, the most common material used for the pyramid cores. Craftsmen struck the chisels with wooden mallets, gradually chiseling blocks to exact dimensions. For harder materials, like the red granite used in the king's chamber, they relied on dolerite pounding stones, dense, hard rocks that could chip away at granite surfaces. The process was slow and laborious, requiring skill, patience, and an intimate knowledge of the stone's natural fractures to prevent cracks that could compromise structural integrity. Ropes and wooden sledges formed another essential tool set. Massive stones were hauled across sand and ramps by teams of workers using these sledges with ropes to guide and stabilize them. Experiments by modern archaeologists have confirmed that sprinkling water on the sand dramatically reduced friction, allowing even stones weighing tens of tons to glide more easily. This simple yet elegant technique demonstrates the Egyptians' practical understanding of physics. Friction could be manipulated, weight distributed, and motion controlled using observation and ingenuity. Levers and inclined planes were also critical. Workers used wooden levers to lift stones short distances, maneuvering them into position with astonishing precision. Ramps, perhaps the most famous of their innovations, came in multiple forms. Straight ramps extending from the base, zigzagging ramps along the pyramid sides, and spiral ramps wrapping around the structure as it rose. Each ramp was a technical solution to a specific problem, moving massive blocks vertically without modern machinery. Some scholars propose that ramps were dismantled as the pyramid grew, their materials recycled to continue the construction, reflecting both resourcefulness and planning. Measurement and alignment techniques further highlight Egyptian innovation, using plumb bobs, leveling instruments, and sighting rods. Builders achieved near-perfect horizontal and vertical alignment. The Great Pyramid's base is level to within just a few centimeters, over 230 meters, a precision remarkable for a project completed with hand tools. Ropes stretched with knots at regular intervals provided standardized units for laying out each course of stone. Every tool, every measurement was designed to serve both practical and symbolic purposes, ensuring the structure's stability, while also adhering to cosmic and spiritual order. Organization was perhaps the greatest innovation of all. Tens of thousands of workers had to be coordinated, from quarrymen cutting the stone to teams hauling it across the plateau to masons shaping and polishing blocks. This required advanced project management, schedules, labor rotations, and logistics of food, water, and medical care. Archaeological evidence from workers' villages shows that the Egyptians achieved this with a centralized hierarchy led by master, builders, and overseers who ensured precision and quality control throughout every stage of construction. The pyramids were as much a product of social engineering as they were of physical tools. The Egyptians also demonstrated innovation in cutting and transporting massive stones. Granite blocks weighing 2580 tons were brought hundreds of miles from Aswan via the Nile River. Special boats, large enough to carry such loads, were used to float stones downstream to Giza during the inundation season. Once on land, teams of workers moved the stones using sledges, wooden rollers, and wet sand. The careful choreography of these movements required not only physical strength, but careful observation of mechanics, weight distribution, and momentum, concepts that would only be formalized in modern physics millennia later. Inside the pyramid, innovation continued. The design of the Grand Gallery, with corbelled walls and precise angles, allowed for both structural stability and efficient transportation of blocks to the higher chambers. The construction of relieving chambers above the king's chamber, stacked in layers, distributed weight away from critical areas, preventing collapse. These solutions indicate not just skill, but foresight, a mastery of engineering principles applied intuitively and creatively. Even the seemingly mundane, like sharpening tools, required clever techniques. Copper chisels were regularly heated, hammered, and quenched to maintain their cutting edge. Workers would rotate tools between teams, using softer stones to polish and shape edges. Every stage of construction, from quarry to final placement, was guided by a combination of experimentation, observation, and adaptation, an iterative process that reflects a highly developed practical intelligence. Innovation extended beyond physical construction to ritualized methods. Workers inscribed hieroglyphs on blocks, carved marks that identified teams, and performed symbolic acts believed to protect the pyramid and the pharaoh's soul. These practices were not purely ceremonial. They reinforced coordination and accountability, ensuring that each block could be traced to a particular team. In this sense, ritual and innovation were intertwined. Spiritual acts doubled as organizational tools, reflecting the Egyptians' holistic approach to problem solving. Modern research continues to reveal surprises. Robotic probes have explored narrow shafts. Muon radiography has detected hidden voids, and experimental archaeology has tested ramp and sled techniques. Each discovery confirms that Egyptian builders relied on ingenuity, observation, and careful experimentation rather than brute force alone. The pyramids are living laboratories of ancient innovation, demonstrating how humans can achieve extraordinary outcomes with limited technology when creativity, knowledge, and collective effort converge. Ultimately, the tools, techniques, and innovation of the pyramid builders exemplify the essence of human achievement. The copper chisel, wooden sledge, and inclined plane were not just implements, they were extensions of human will. Each block moved, each stone cut, each ramp constructed represents a dialogue between mind and matter, imagination and reality. The pyramids rise as a testament to the Egyptians' ability to transform simple materials and basic tools into monuments of precision, beauty, and eternal purpose. The pyramids endure not merely because of stone, but because of this ingenuity, the seamless integration of practical skill, inventive thinking, and spiritual vision. They are monuments to human creativity as much as to divine kingship, proof that even in a civilization without modern machinery, humans could conceive of, design, and execute works that defy time and imagination. Every stone, every corridor, every chamber bears witness to the genius of a people who saw the impossible and made it real. Tools in hand, minds focused, hearts devoted. The pyramids of Egypt were never just tombs. They were, in many ways, instruments designed to connect Earth with the cosmos, to align human ambition with the eternal rhythms of the universe. The ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's existence, and by extension, the kingdom itself, was intimately tied to celestial order. Every stone, corridor, and chamber in a pyramid was carefully calibrated not only for structural integrity, but also for cosmic harmony. In this sense, the Great Pyramid of Khufu is less a building than a colossal observatory, a spiritual and astronomical instrument, a bridge between mortals and the divine. At the most obvious level, the orientation of the pyramids demonstrates extraordinary astronomical precision. The Great Pyramid is aligned with the cardinal points north, south, east, and west, with an error of less than 0.05 degrees. Achieving such accuracy without modern compasses required careful observation of the stars, sun, and shadows. Ancient Egyptian astronomers likely used circumpolar stars, stars that never set below the horizon, as reference points. These imperishable stars were symbols of eternity, and aligning the pyramid to them was a way to anchor the pharaoh's soul to the heavens, ensuring his journey toward immortality. Beyond the cardinal alignment, specific shafts inside the pyramid appear to point toward stars associated with key deities. In the king's chamber, the northern shaft is believed to target Thuban, a star in the constellation Draco that served as the pole star at the time. The southern shaft aligns with Alnitak, a star in Orion's belt associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. Similar celestial correspondences exist in the Queen's chamber. These alignments were not practical. They had no ventilatory function, but symbolic, designed to guide the pharaoh's soul along a predetermined cosmic path, ascending from the earthly realm to join the gods in the sky. Mathematics, too, plays a central role in the pyramid's cosmology. Scholars have long noted that the ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height approximates 2p, the mathematical constant describing a circle. Whether intentional or coincidental, this relationship suggests that the pyramid embodies concepts of cosmic geometry. Its square base represents the earth, while the apex symbolizes the heavens. In this way, the pyramid serves as a symbolic map of the universe, linking terrestrial and celestial order. The Egyptians were encoding their understanding of creation itself into stone, creating a monument that reflects both physical and metaphysical principles. The pyramid's internal layout reinforces this cosmological symbolism. The subterranean chamber may represent the underworld, the place of trial and transformation for the pharaoh's soul. The ascending passage and grand gallery symbolize the soul's journey upward, overcoming obstacles and progressing toward divine union. The king's chamber, surrounded by massive granite beams and relieving chambers, is the final destination, a celestial sanctuary where the pharaoh's body rests and his spirit prepares for eternal life. The sequence of spaces mirrors a cosmic journey, each architectural element imbued with both practical and spiritual significance. The choice of materials also reflects cosmic symbolism. White Tura limestone, polished to a brilliant sheen, was used for the outer casing to reflect sunlight, a divine light that connected the pharaoh with the sun god Ra. Red granite, used in key chambers, may have symbolized power, vitality, and eternal life. Even the act of carving, moving, and placing each block can be seen as part of a ritualized engagement with the cosmos, a deliberate act of aligning human endeavor with divine principles. The pyramids were also integrated into broader astronomical and geographical considerations. Some researchers suggest that the three main pyramids of Giza mirror the alignment of Orion's belt, symbolically linking the pharaohs to Osiris. The Nile, flowing alongside the plateau, represented the celestial river of the afterlife, with the pyramids acting as monumental markers bridging land and sky. From this perspective, the pyramid complex is not merely a collection of structures. It is a carefully orchestrated cosmic stage, where earth and heavens, gods and humans interact. Even the precision of the pyramid's construction has cosmological implications. The exact leveling of the base, the consistent angle of the sides, and the alignment with celestial bodies indicate a civilization deeply aware of the universe's rhythms. The builders were not simply engineers, they were astronomers, mathematicians, and spiritual practitioners, translating observation and belief into architecture. Each measurement, each cut, and each alignment was a deliberate act of connecting the human world with the eternal cosmos. Modern science has confirmed aspects of these alignments. Laser scans, astronomical modeling, and satellite imagery have demonstrated that the pyramid's orientations and proportions are far beyond what could be achieved by chance. Researchers have identified correspondences with solstices, equinoxes, and key stars, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. The Great Pyramid, in particular, functions as a monumental timepiece and celestial map, encoding information about the stars, the solar year, and the universe itself into stone. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the pyramid's cosmology is the integration of human purpose with cosmic order. The builders, laborers, architects, and priests were participating in a vision that transcended their lifetimes. Every stone moved was a prayer, every alignment an offering to the gods. The pyramid was not just a tomb, it was an instrument of cosmic balance, ensuring that the Pharaoh's journey, the kingdom's stability, and the universe's order were intertwined. In a sense, the pyramid itself becomes a living organism, a conduit of energy between earth and sky, between mortal and divine. The Great Pyramid, standing silent and monumental, embodies this fusion of science, spirituality, and human ingenuity. It is a testament to the Egyptians' understanding that the universe is not separate from human life, but intimately connected to it. Its orientation, geometry, and internal layout reveal a civilization capable of integrating observation, ritual, mathematics, and architecture into a single, harmonious whole. In this way, the pyramid is not only a structure, but a philosophy, a belief that life, death, and eternity are interwoven, that human endeavor can align with cosmic order, and that immortality is achieved through harmony with the universe. To walk inside a pyramid today is to feel this connection, the cool, echoing passages, the silent chambers, and the precision of every stone convey more than architectural skill. They convey intention, awareness, and reverence for the cosmos. The builders, the pharaoh, and the priests all collaborated to create a monument that was as much spiritual as it was structural, as much symbolic as it was physical. In this sense, the Great Pyramid of Khufu continues to teach us that human vision, when aligned with the cosmos, can create something eternal. The pyramid, as a cosmological instrument, reminds us that ancient Egypt was a civilization that saw no boundary between the heavens and the earth, between the divine and human. Every stone placed, every shaft aligned, and every chamber constructed was a deliberate act of cosmic communication. The Great Pyramid is more than a tomb. It is a message to the stars, a statement that human ambition, devotion, and ingenuity can echo across time, space, and the universe itself. Despite centuries of study, the construction of the Great Pyramid of Khufu remains one of humanity's most fascinating engineering mysteries. Archaeologists, engineers, historians, and enthusiasts have debated the methods of construction for generations. How could a civilization without cranes, pulleys, or modern machinery move millions of massive stones into precise alignment? How did they coordinate thousands of workers, transport materials hundreds of miles, and achieve near-perfect geometrical accuracy? These questions have inspired a wide range of theories, some practical, some speculative, and some bordering on the impossible. One of the most widely accepted theories involves the use of ramp systems. Scholars have proposed several ramp designs: straight ramps, zigzag ramps, and spiral ramps wrapping around the pyramid as it rose. Each design presents advantages and challenges. Straight ramps require immense quantities of material to maintain a manageable incline, potentially as long as the pyramid itself, creating logistical difficulties. Zigzagging ramps reduce the incline but require careful planning to ensure stability. Spiral ramps conserve material and space, but complicate the movement of large blocks around curves. Excavations have found traces of ramp foundations and remnants of mud brick, suggesting that at least one type of ramp was indeed used. Some researchers, such as French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, have proposed internal ramp theories. According to this idea, a spiraling ramp built inside the pyramid itself allowed workers to move stones upward gradually without external scaffolding. The internal ramp, supported by the structure's walls, could have facilitated precise placement while reducing the enormous external labor that straight or spiral ramps would require. Houdin's theory is supported by computer simulations and 3D modeling, but physical evidence remains limited. Still, it highlights the ingenuity and resourcefulness of the ancient builders. Another key area of debate concerns the transportation of massive stones. Limestone blocks for the pyramid's core came from local quarries, but red granite for the king's chamber traveled over 500 miles from Aswan. Researchers agree that the Nile River was used to float these stones on boats, but moving them from riverbanks to the pyramid plateau required ingenious methods. Ancient Egyptian depictions show workers dragging sledges over sand, and modern experiments suggest that pouring water in front of sledges reduces friction significantly. Such simple techniques, combined with coordinated human effort, demonstrate that the builders relied on practical observation as much as raw strength. The exact method of raising stones to higher levels remains another subject of debate. Some theories suggest long external ramps, dismantled as construction progressed. Others propose a system of counterweights and levers. Although there is little archaeological evidence for large-scale counterweight systems, some experimental archaeologists have demonstrated that teams of 20 to 30 workers using ramps and levers could raise multi-ton blocks safely. While the precise method may never be known, the combination of ramps, sledges, levers, and organization explains how ancient Egyptians could achieve the monumental scale we see today. Beyond logistics, scholars also debate the level of labor skill and social organization required. Excavations at Giza reveal that workers were not slaves, but highly organized laborers living in purpose-built villages, fed with high-quality rations, and cared for medically. Teams were divided into crews and files with clear hierarchies and oversight. Graffiti left on blocks shows pride, humor, and identity among teams, challenging older assumptions of forced labor. The scale of coordination, combined with craftsmanship, reflects a civilization with highly developed project management skills, capable of sustaining decades-long construction. The pyramid's precision and alignment present additional mysteries. The base is level within mere centimeters across hundreds of meters, and the sides align with true north with extraordinary accuracy. How did the Egyptians achieve this without compasses? Some researchers suggest they observed circumpolar stars, using them as reference points for cardinal alignment. Others propose solar observations at specific times of year, tracking the sun's shadow to establish east-west lines. The method may have combined multiple techniques, highlighting the Egyptians' keen astronomical observation and geometric understanding. Some theories, however, venture into speculation. Proposals of lost technologies, advanced machines, or even extraterrestrial assistance have circulated in popular culture. While these ideas are largely dismissed by mainstream archaeology, they reflect humanity's fascination with the pyramid's sheer audacity. The structure's complexity and longevity invite questions that challenge our assumptions about ancient engineering capabilities. Each new discovery, such as the 2017 detection of the big void above the Grand Gallery, reminds us that even after millennia, the pyramid still guards secrets. The debate also extends to the construction timeline. Estimates suggest the Great Pyramid took roughly 20 years to complete, a massive feat of sustained labor. Scholars analyze labor rotation, resource management, and seasonal work patterns to understand how such a timeline was achievable. The synchronization of quarrying, transportation, cutting, and placement required meticulous planning and continuous coordination. It is a testament to the administrative sophistication of ancient Egypt, which could mobilize vast human and material resources for a single monumental goal. Modern experimental archaeology continues to test theories. Teams have successfully moved multi-ton blocks using sledges and ramps, confirming that ancient techniques could have worked without modern machinery. 3D simulations help researchers visualize internal ramp possibilities. Even robotic probes, exploring shafts and chambers, provide insights into construction sequences and design choices. Each experiment confirms that the ancient Egyptians combined observation, trial and error, and careful planning to achieve what seems impossible. Ultimately, the mysteries of pyramid construction reflect more than engineering ingenuity. They reflect human ambition, faith, and vision. These structures were designed to endure, both physically and symbolically, bridging Earth and cosmos. Every theory about ramps, levers, sledges, or astronomical alignment is a glimpse into the minds of builders who saw the impossible not as a limitation, but as a challenge. They crafted a monument to eternity using only tools of their time and intellect that still inspires awe today. The debates continue because the pyramids were not merely practical, they were spiritual, mathematical, and symbolic constructions. Their perfection and scale suggest that construction methods were as much about precision and intention as raw labor. Every block, every alignment, every architectural decision was part of a larger cosmic and religious vision, making the task far more complex than simple stone stacking. Even today, we study and marvel, realizing that while many questions have answers, some, perhaps deliberately, remain unsolved. In the end, the Great Pyramid's construction is a testament to human ingenuity and organization. The theories and debates surrounding its creation do more than speculate on methods. They remind us of the civilization's skill, foresight, and devotion. The pyramid is a monument to innovation, faith, and coordination, a structure that stands as a challenge across millennia. To understand it fully is to glimpse the extraordinary capabilities of an ancient world. Even after thousands of years, it remains a puzzle, an inspiration, and a symbol of the possibilities of human vision and determination. To understand the pyramids of Egypt, one must look beyond their stones, measurements, and engineering feats. At their core, these monumental structures were deeply spiritual, embodying the Egyptians' beliefs about life, death, and the cosmos. The pyramids were far more than tombs. They were sacred instruments designed to facilitate the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife, maintain cosmic order, and anchor the spiritual life of the nation. Their religious significance permeated every aspect of their design, construction, and symbolism. In ancient Egyptian thought, death was not an end, but a transition. Life and afterlife were intertwined in a continuous cycle where the pharaoh played a central role. The king was seen as the living Horus, god of kingship and the sky, and in death, he became Osiris, ruler of the underworld. The pyramid was not just a tomb, it was a vessel, a machine, and a map for the pharaoh's transformation from mortal to divine. Its architecture, orientation, and internal chambers were carefully designed to facilitate this sacred passage. The act of building a pyramid was itself a religious ritual. Every stone placed was more than a construction task. It was an offering, a prayer, and a reaffirmation of divine order. Priests oversaw the construction, ensuring that measurements and alignments adhered to sacred principles. They conducted rituals to bless the site, consecrate the stones, and invoke the protection of gods such as Ra, Horus, and Osiris. The pyramid was consecrated ground, a sacred space where human hands and divine will converged. The pyramid's design reflects symbolic cosmology. Its square base represents the earth, the foundation of the kingdom, while the triangular sides ascend toward the sky, symbolizing the pharaoh's ascent to the heavens. The apex, once capped with a shining stone, represented the point of union between human and divine, a beacon linking the terrestrial world to the cosmos. The precise alignment to cardinal points and certain stars ensured that the structure functioned as a spiritual compass, guiding the pharaoh's soul to join the eternal cycle of the heavens. Internal chambers were more than practical spaces, they were sacred environments. The king's chamber, constructed from red granite, was designed to preserve the pharaoh's physical body while simultaneously serving as a sanctified stage for his spiritual transformation. Surrounding relieving chambers ensured structural integrity, symbolically reflecting the layered nature of the spiritual journey. Challenges, trials, and protection. Even the narrow air shafts have been interpreted as spiritual conduits, pathways through which the pharaoh's soul could ascend directly to the stars, linking him to Osiris and the eternal cosmos. Religious texts, such as the pyramid texts discovered in later pyramids, provide insight into the spiritual functions of these structures. Though the Great Pyramid predates many of these inscriptions, the principles are likely consistent. These texts describe rituals, spells, and incantations to guide the pharaoh through the afterlife, protect him from dangers, and facilitate his union with the gods. The pyramids, then, were not merely physical constructions, but repositories of sacred knowledge, inscribed in stone, geometry, and spatial design. The pyramids also played a broader role in maintaining Mayat, the ancient Egyptian concept of cosmic order, balance, and harmony. The pharaoh's eternal life was not a private concern. It was essential for the continued prosperity and stability of the kingdom. By constructing the pyramid, ensuring its alignment with celestial forces, and performing associated rituals, the pharaoh and his priests maintained the balance between the mortal world and the divine. The pyramid thus became a focal point of national religious practice, an axis of spiritual power connecting gods, king, and people. Symbolism extended to the materials used in construction. Polished limestone for the outer casing reflected the light of the sun, symbolically linking the pharaoh to Ra, the sun god and giver of life. Red granite, quarried from distant Aswan, represented strength, vitality, and eternity. Even the act of transporting these materials through rivers, sledges, and labor was a sacred procession, a physical embodiment of devotion and cosmic service. Every aspect of the pyramid, from material choice to architectural form, conveyed a message of divine order. The location of the pyramids was also spiritually significant. Positioned on the west bank of the Nile, where the sun sets, the pyramids were associated with the realm of the dead. The west symbolized the underworld and the eternal journey, while the east, where the sun rose, symbolized rebirth and renewal. This alignment with the natural cycles of the sun and river reinforced the Egyptians' belief in the harmony of life, death, and resurrection, embedding the pharaoh's eternal journey within the rhythms of nature itself. Rituals associated with the pyramid were elaborate and ongoing. The burial of the pharaoh involved ceremonies, offerings, and invocations of divine protection. The pyramid's presence also inspired the living. Festivals, processions, and commemorations of the pharaoh's life and divine status were often centered around the pyramid complex. It served as a tangible reminder of spiritual truths, the enduring authority of the king, and the cosmic order maintained through human and divine collaboration. Even in the centuries following Khufu, later pharaohs built pyramids with an increasing emphasis on spiritual symbolism. The architecture evolved, yet the fundamental purpose remained the same. These structures were sacred instruments, bridges between the temporal and eternal, between human effort and divine destiny. Every corridor, chamber, and shaft reflected a sophisticated understanding of spirituality, cosmology, and human psychology. They were designed not only to preserve life, but to inspire reverence, awe, and devotion. Ultimately, the religious and spiritual significance of the pyramids lies in their capacity to unify human and divine. They embody the Egyptians' belief that architecture could transcend mere function, becoming a vessel for immortality and cosmic balance. The pyramids were both literal tombs and symbolic maps, guiding the pharaoh's soul, maintaining the kingdom's harmony, and demonstrating the profound integration of faith, knowledge, and artistry. Through these magnificent structures, the Egyptians proclaimed a fundamental truth that life, death, and eternity are not separate but intertwined in a carefully orchestrated cosmic order. Standing before a pyramid, one cannot help but feel the weight of this spiritual vision. Its size, symmetry, and presence evoke not only human ingenuity, but also the profound religious intent that shaped it. The pyramid is more than stone. It is devotion crystallized, eternity rendered tangible. Its spiritual resonance continues to inspire awe, reminding us that for the ancient Egyptians, the journey to the afterlife was both a personal and universal endeavors, an eternal voyage guided by faith, knowledge, and cosmic harmony. The pyramids were not simply aligned to the cardinal points. Their builders designed them as celestial instruments, a link between earth and the heavens. Ancient Egyptians believed the stars held immense spiritual power, guiding the souls of the pharaohs in their journey to immortality. The Great Pyramid's shafts, in particular, point to key stars associated with deities. The northern shaft of the king's chamber toward Thuban in Draco, the southern toward Alnitak in Orion's belt. Orion represented Osiris, the god of rebirth, and Sirius, linked to the goddess Isis, marked the start of the Nile flood, symbolizing life and renewal. These alignments indicate not only astronomical awareness, but a deep cosmological purpose. Observation of the heavens allowed Egyptian architects to anchor the pyramid in cosmic order. By aligning the pyramid precisely with cardinal points and stars, the structure became a spiritual compass, ensuring the pharaoh's soul could ascend along celestial pathways. The precise angles and measurements also correspond to the solar year, reflecting knowledge of solstices and equinoxes. Some researchers suggest that pyramids were constructed as giant maps of the sky, symbolically linking the terrestrial and divine realms. In this way, the pyramid functioned as a bridge between human life and eternal cosmic cycles, preserving the pharaoh's divine role. Modern techniques, including 3D modeling and satellite imagery, have confirmed the pyramid's astronomical accuracy. Even minor deviations are within fractions of a degree, suggesting careful observation over years, if not decades. Beyond spiritual symbolism, the alignments may have also served calendrical purposes, guiding agricultural and ritual cycles. The Egyptians' integration of astronomy, geometry, and spirituality highlights their understanding that the universe and human existence were inseparable. The pyramids stand not only as tombs, but as monuments of cosmic harmony, immortalizing both human ingenuity and the eternal cycles of the stars. The construction of pyramids had profound economic and social implications for ancient Egypt. Mobilizing tens of thousands of workers required extraordinary resources, creating a ripple effect across society. Workers' villages near Giza were bustling centers of labor, trade, and administration. Farms, quarries, bakeries, breweries, and workshops were integrated into the project, sustaining the workforce and stimulating the economy. Skilled craftsmen, engineers, and laborers worked in coordinated teams, reflecting sophisticated social organization and resource management unprecedented for its time. pyramid construction also strengthened political and cultural cohesion. Participation in a grand, sacred project fostered unity, instilled national pride, and reinforced the pharaoh's authority. Seasonal labor rotations, when farmers worked on the pyramids during Nile floods, ensured economic stability while providing employment and spiritual purpose. Artisans gained status and recognition, leaving graffiti and inscriptions that celebrated their contributions. The pyramid was not only a religious monument, but a social instrument, consolidating the kingdom's power structure and embedding the pharaoh's legacy into both material and human networks. The economic impact extended to trade and resource management. Quarries supplied limestone and granite. Transportation systems along the Nile moved vast quantities of stone, and food production had to meet the needs of tens of thousands of workers. Archaeological evidence shows the distribution of rations, medical care, and housing, all meticulously planned to sustain the labor force. In effect, the pyramids acted as catalysts for economic organization, technological innovation, and social structure, demonstrating how monumental projects can shape civilization itself. They were a testament to the Egyptians' ability to transform resources, labor, and planning into enduring cultural achievements. The pyramids served as the ultimate symbols of pharaohic power, projecting authority, divinity, and permanence. Their sheer scale and visibility reinforced the ruler's supremacy, both to the Egyptian population and neighboring lands. A pyramid rising from the desert was a statement of mastery over nature, time, and human effort. Its geometric perfection, alignment with celestial bodies, and elaborate interior chambers symbolized the pharaoh's connection to the gods, asserting that kingship was ordained, sacred, and eternal. Beyond political messaging, the pyramids immortalized individual legacies. Each structure preserved the name, body, and spiritual essence of its pharaoh. Inscriptions, burial goods, and ritual spaces reinforced memory and status, ensuring that generations would remember the ruler's divinity and achievements. The scale of construction also reflected ambition. A ruler who built a larger, more precise pyramid demonstrated greater divine favor and power, creating a competitive legacy among successive kings. In this way, the pyramids were both practical and symbolic, combining religious, political, and cultural messaging into a single monumental form. The pyramids' symbolism extended to Egyptian society itself. They were reminders of divine order, human ingenuity, and collective effort. The laborers, priests, and artisans contributing to their construction became part of this narrative, their lives intertwined with the pharaoh's eternal journey. As enduring landmarks, the pyramids communicated a timeless message that power, spirituality, and legacy are inseparable, and that human endeavor, when combined with cosmic vision, can achieve immortality in stone. Their continued fascination today is proof that this message resonates across millennia, inspiring awe, curiosity, and reverence. Even after centuries of study, the pyramids continue to guard secrets. While much is known about their construction, purpose, and symbolism, countless questions remain unanswered, keeping the Great Pyramid at the center of historical fascination. One of the greatest mysteries involves hidden chambers. The 2017 discovery of the Big Void above the Grand Gallery revealed a large, previously unknown cavity sparking debates about its purpose. Was it structural, to relieve weight, or ceremonial, intended to hold sacred objects or facilitate spiritual passage? Robotic explorations continue, but the answers remain elusive, adding to the aura of mystery. Another enigma involves the precision of construction. How did ancient Egyptians achieve such exact alignment with the cardinal points and near perfect leveling over 230 meters without modern instruments? Scholars have proposed stellar observations, shadow tracking, and geometric techniques, but no single explanation fully accounts for the remarkable accuracy. Similarly, the choice of materials, transport of massive stones, and the exact methods for moving and placing them remain partially speculative. Each discovery deepens our admiration while revealing the limitations of our understanding. Beyond engineering, questions also surround symbolic and astronomical intent. Were the pyramids aligned deliberately with constellations, the Nile, and solar cycles to a degree that functioned as an astronomical calendar, a ritual machine, or a combination of both? What was the full spiritual significance of the narrow shafts, blocked doors, and subterranean chambers? Did these features guide the pharaoh's soul, encode cosmic knowledge, or serve a practical purpose? These enigmas illustrate that the pyramids were not merely constructions. They were living puzzles of culture, science, and belief. Their mysteries continue to captivate the imagination of scholars, explorers, and dreamers alike. The pyramids' influence extends far beyond ancient Egypt. Architecturally, they set benchmarks in precision, scale, and durability that inspired countless civilizations, from ziggurats in Mesopotamia to modern monumental structures. The pyramids demonstrated the potential of organized labor, sophisticated engineering, and symbolic design. They were not merely tombs, they were blueprints for human ambition, showing that cultural vision could shape the physical world on an unprecedented scale. Culturally, the pyramids symbolized the union of human effort and divine purpose. They reinforced societal cohesion by integrating religion, politics, and labor into a shared national project. This integration of belief, governance, and craftsmanship established a model for how monumental projects could influence identity, pride, and cultural memory. In literature, art, and even modern media, the pyramids continue to evoke awe, mystery, and inspiration, transcending their original context to become universal icons of achievement. Intellectually, the pyramids challenged generations to think about mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. Scholars, from ancient Greek historians to modern archaeologists, have marveled at their precision, proportions, and cosmic alignment. They spurred experimentation in structural design, transportation methods, and organizational strategy. Today, they remain a testament to human creativity, ingenuity, and the enduring capacity to merge art, science, and spirituality into something eternal. As we conclude our exploration, the pyramids emerge as more than architectural wonders. They are symbols of human ambition, divine devotion, and the pursuit of eternity. Their construction required vision, planning, and unprecedented social coordination. Their design harmonized with celestial bodies, reflected spiritual beliefs, and encoded symbolic meaning that transcends time. Every stone, corridor, and chamber carries the imprint of skill, intelligence and faith, preserving the legacy of a civilization that understood the unity of life, death, and cosmos. The pyramids continue to inspire awe, not only for their scale and precision, but for their enduring mysteries. Hidden chambers, celestial alignments, and symbolic architecture challenge our understanding of ancient knowledge, reminding us that human ingenuity is both timeless and universal. They are monuments not only to pharaohs, but to the thousands of workers, artisans, and visionaries whose efforts created a bridge between earth and the divine. Ultimately, the pyramids are a testament to what humans can achieve when vision, devotion, and knowledge converge. They invite reflection, admiration, and curiosity, bridging millennia to connect us with a civilization that transformed stone into immortality. In standing before them, or even in imagining their grandeur, we witness the power of human aspiration and the eternal dialogue between humanity and the cosmos. Now, with a smile on your face, you will have a good understanding of the real reason why the pyramids were built and how they helped the ancient Egyptians. They were not merely tombs, but symbols of divine order, unity, and eternal life, messages in stone that have endured for millennia. Good night, dear friend. See you next time.